Now that we've had a couple days for our palates to be cleansed of Washington's preseason 30-point defeat to the New England Patriots on Friday, the team is back out at practice today, 2 o'clock p.m. The weather's nice, and we can actually have a nuanced conversation about the game Friday. First things first, I don't think the depth issue we have here is as bad as it looked Friday. I think it looked like we rested 31 players, but let's get after it and let's talk about whose stock went up, whose stock went down, and what players were as advertised on Friday night versus the Patriots. Let's get after it. Happy Sunday. Good morning, Washington Commanders Nation. It's your boy Rio Robinson, back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about our Washington Commanders. Today is Sunday, August 10th, and we're just that much closer. I believe we're 4 Sundays away from the start of real NFL football. Week 1 versus the New York Giants, September 7th at Northwest Stadium. We are that much closer. 2 more preseason games to go, but before we officially turn the page on Washington's Friday preseason matchup, I'm here to say, everyone relax. Everyone relax. Our fan base, while in other fan bases, ooh, Washington's going to take that sophomore slump. Things ain't so sweet in year 2. No football game where Jaden Daniels didn't take the field is going to be something that really needs that deep of an assessment. We cannot act like the list of yes, the players that we put out on the field on Friday needed to give us a better effort, but we're not about to sit here and act like Saint Ristil, Debo, Marshawn Harris, Louvu, Jaden, B-Rob, Terry, Marcus Mariota, Quan Martin, Von Miller, Austin Eckler, Jonathan Jones, Javon Kinlaw, Bobby Wagner, Jordan McGee, Tyler Biotis, Nick Allegretti, Timothy McKay, Andrew Wiley, Brandon Coleman, Sam Cosmi, Laramie Tunzel, Noah Brown, Zach Ertz, John Bates, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Dietrich Wise Jr., Dorrance Armstrong, and Daron Payne did not play football on Friday night. So all the doom and gloom, see, Rio, I told you we were going to regress in 2025. Shut the fuck up. Everybody, shut the fuck up. Gain some composure and lock the hell back in. While those guys that took the field look like you or I could have hopped on the field and did what they did on Friday, I don't think we have anything to worry about. The preseason is the preseason, and obviously recency bias is going to make everyone overreact. And some of our depth pieces don't really look like depth that should be required. But if you think Friday strengthened Terry's case for a contract, or that Washington needs to go out and make a big trade, or that we need to panic and pivot to other options because what took place on Friday night, I'm here to tell you, calm the hell down. It is a preseason football game, and we lost, and we lost in ugly fashion. It's time to lock back in now because things get realer as we draw closer to the start of the regular season. But let's start with the positive before we get into the negative. And matter of fact, before we get to the positive, a player I'm not going to list on either list today, but a player I wanted to give a shout out and check on the well-being of is Carlin Vigors. Carlin Vigors, our undrafted free agent cornerback, number 22. I hope he's getting all the treatment in the world. I hope he's on an IV pack and he's walking around in bubble wrap with ice all over his body, because that boy was out there looking like a human sacrifice on Friday. They was fucking that boy up for 4 quarters in a row, and he was tired as hell. But let's get into our stock up list from Friday's preseason game, which is going to start with the player you see on the screen right now, Mr. Jerzon Johnny Newton, the player we took with the 36th overall pick in the 2024 draft. I didn't expect to really see much Johnny Newton on Friday. I actually thought he wasn't going to play, so it was a pleasant surprise to see him out on the field Friday. There were not many glimpses or flashes of positivity from the team on Friday, but Johnny Newton, his star shined the brightest. He's one of those players, I put them together in one pot And I need to see some productivity out of these three. When I say between him, Luke McCaffrey, and Ben Sinnott. But most importantly, Johnny Newton, because we took him because the talent. We didn't take him because a specific need at D tackle at the time. We felt like he was a first round pick. The world felt like he was a first round pick. We needed him to be our pass rushing defensive tackle. And boy, did he flash in the little bit that he played. I watched him sniff out a screen pass and get in on a tackle for loss, get a run stop, and a beautiful stunt strip sack of Drake May. This was the most cachet Washington received on Friday. They forced a turnover versus the New England Patriots starting offense. Johnny Newton looked spry, he looked loose, and he was flying around. You could tell he lost some weight. You know, when you see him in game uniform, it don't look the same as the practice uniform. Maybe he's not as light as I thought he was after seeing him with the haircut and the practice uniform up close, but he still looked big. He still got some size. He got some girth to him, and he was moving around. He was flying around. That is the best Johnny Newton could possibly look in a small sample size of about a drive or two. He single-handedly took one of their drives away. The way he sniffed out the screen immediately, I would be putting clips on the screen, but it's not the same as practice clips, and I'm not trying to play copyright roulette over this video, so bear with me. But easily the player who stood out the most. And I want to give Jacob Martin some credit too, because it was a cross stunt between Jacob Martin that set up the Johnny Newton strip sack on the play. Johnny Newton Jacob Martin crosses his face. Johnny Newton wraps around, gets there, perfectly dialed up stunt. You know, Joe Witt knows what he's doing a little bit, man. Don't necessarily call for firings of personnel and coach over a fucking preseason game and over 1 year experiment with not the amount of players he should have on the defense. But Johnny Newton easily stood out the most of all Commanders players in preseason game number 1. So that was a very easy one for me, taking me to number 2 on the list. We got to go to the offensive side of the ball. There were not many things to come away in a positive light from the offensive side of the ball, but someone we've been very hard and critical on since some of the dropsies that were happening in training camp. Mr. Jakori Brooks, number 16, caught all 5 of his targets, even though one was debatable whether it hit the ground or not. And the Patriots were doing unforgivable sins in deciding to challenge plays in unnecessary preseason games. But 5 catches for 59 yards, 11.8 yards a catch for Mr. Jakori Brooks in the preseason, in a wide receiver room desperate to figure out who the 6th guy in the room is going to be. Jakori Brooks shined while some of his compatriots in that room looked awful and were dropping shit all over the field. Remember the narrative. I said Jakori Brooks may just be a game time player and not a practice player. And that's the type of guy that's dropping passes in practice, doesn't always run out all of his routes, etc. Jakori Brooks was one of the few bright spots, or one of the only bright spots in that wide receiver room on Friday. It looked pretty bad, and I know people are coming away from this game thinking, oh, Washington needs to go bring Amari Cooper out of retirement. Washington needs to go trade for this player. What? Guys, the core of the wide receiving room was not really playing. Terry, we know the vibes. Debo, we already know what's good. Jalen Lane was out there for a couple drives, but they were typically only using him as the punt returner on Friday. Noah Brown, you have to always account for the amount of games he's going to miss, but Debo, Terry, and Noah, those are your typical 3. Your next 2 are going to be Lane and McCaffrey. McCaffrey was sick. I know we wanted to see more Luke McCaffrey Friday. He was battling illness that we knew existed right up before game time. That's 5. The 6th receiver just rounds out the room. Are we acting like the 6th receiver is going to be getting a lot of burn this year? But we do need to figure out who that 6th receiver is going to be. But sitting here and panicking as if the 6th receiver on the team is going to be relied upon for significant like contribution in the offense this year, it's a little ludicrous. I think it's times at fans we need to come back and have a moment of realization, like, what the hell am I talking about in the moment? But good for Jakori Brooks. He actually got some separation. The hands look sure, and was one of the few bright spots in that room on Friday night. So Jakori Brooks comes in at number 4. Go earn yourself a gig, my guy, because those veterans, Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, and Chris Moore, I have no interest in seeing any of those guys be rostered in 2025. And this wide receiver room could very well at some point become we're waiting to see how roster cuts league-wide go before we add someone to the room. But number 2 on my list was Jakori Brooks. And connecting on the offensive side, you can't mention Jakori Brooks without the quarterback that was throwing him the football on the play. Shout out to former Redskins legend Josh Johnson coming in at quarterback 3, and the offense actually having some movement once he got in the game. I'm not going to spend long on this one because we're in a world where we know who our quarterback 1 and our quarterback 2 is, but emergency quarterback is something that needs to be discussed and addressed, and Sam Hartman's not getting it done. Sam Hartman was called out specifically by Cliff Kingsbury at the podium the other day, and while he had a touchdown drop, it didn't look so pleasant. He's staring down receivers. Yes, the receiver slipped on the Hartman interception, but Josh Johnson came in 15 to 22, 173, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. The offense started to move, and this is what you expect when you get one of these backup extraordinaires like Josh Johnson. He's played for about every roster in the NFL so far. He's collected a game check and a mini game jerseys in this league. You got to have a emergency quarterback. Shit, he was the emergency quarterback for the 49ers, and he got hurt in that game where the Brock Purdy rule came into fruition versus the Eagles in the NFC Championship a couple years ago. Josh Johnson looked the part. How long do we need to talk about the third string quarterback? But shout out to Josh Johnson for holding down the fort. He is number 3 on my list, which takes me to number 4. We're going to stay on the offense one more time because why not? I mean, the defense lost by 30 points. So how many players on the defense? This picture looks a little crazy, but Lawrence Cager, this mugshot looking ass team picture, they must have caught him as soon as he pulled up to media day, threw a jersey on him, as soon as he woke up and said, take your team picture. But Lawrence Cager, I was not familiar with your game. With Tyree Jackson being put on the pup, we wanted to see what we were getting out of Washington's tight end room. You know, we wanted to, Ben Sinnott had a couple catches, but he didn't play for too long. Lawrence Cager, someone whose game I was not familiar with in the slightest. 2 catches for 35 yards, but most importantly, he had that beautiful corner route that took us right inside the 3-yard line, which set up Washington's first touchdown on the day. Looks like he can run a route, looks sure-handed, and he looks like a tight end that can actually do something with the ball in his hand. I wanted to see how guys like him and guys like Colson Yankoff was going to look, because we knew we weren't going to see any Bates or any Ertz in this game. Make the most of your opportunity. It's pretty much you versus Colson Yankoff for who that 4th and floundering tight end is going to be in the room. It was nice to see a tight end run a route vertically down the field, catch it, and showed a little something with the ball in his hand, even though he was pretty much going to the ground after he caught the corner route. But Lawrence Cager, and shout out to Hannah McKenna, who was in the chat giving us the full breakdown and history of Lawrence Cager, because I had no idea who this player is. This mugshot on the screen was like the first I had ever seen of him. But rounding out my list of stock up, stock down, we're going back to the defensive side of the ball for a guy who did not play much and did not need to play much to make an impact on Friday's game, and that is going to be the guy whose name is a mouthful, Mr. Noah Igbon, number 6. And his new number, he was number 1 last year. Noah was a willing tackler. He batted down a couple passes, and he was the best cornerback on the field once Trenavian Amos stepped off the field. he's been having a good summer. He's been having a good training camp. He looked solid in the joint practice, and he continued to flash in Friday's preseason game. So to wrap up my list of stock up, stock down player, as you can see, I'm not going in some long-winded 30-minute stock up because guys didn't do so much that they require a Shakespearean style monologue to encompass what they put out there on the field on Friday. They don't need all that. So my 5 stock up players: Jerzon Johnny Newton, defensive tackle; wide receiver Jakori Brooks; Lawrence Cager, tight end; Josh Johnson; and Noah Igbon. Those are going to be my top 5 stock up players for the preseason opener on Friday versus the New England Patriots. Stock down. We're not even going to do a slideshow for these guys, but stock down for me. Let's start with the special teams unit. Who are we going to put that on? The coach, Larry Izzo. I understand y'all do not go live in practice, but giving up a Travion Henderson 100-yard kick return on the first return of the game, nasty work. Number 2, Gibson. Antonio freaking Gibson almost housed one on us. And they had another big return later in the game. They look like they've never run kick team in their life. Not to mention Matt Gay is missing field goal while I'm watching Jacksonville Jaguars kickers make 70-yarders in the preseason. Matt Gay, your guarantee's too high to be missing field goals. Please don't miss field goals going forward. Please go 100% for the rest of the preseason because your job, unlike a lot of many guys, actually matters in the preseason because we have kicker PTSD over here. Please turn it around. Chris Moore and KJ Osborne. You could throw Gallup in this room too, even though he flashed and made a catch or two. Just this trio of very uninspiring wide receivers. Y'all are all on the list of stock down. I have no desire for Michael Gallup, Chris Moore, or KJ. I don't know what happened to KJ Osborne. Once upon a time existed a quality wide receiver 2, top end of the league wide receiver 3 in the body of KJ Osborne. He is ass now. He dropped a touchdown. He's out here letting undrafted free agents show him up, and he no longer looks like a guy that was once capable of 700-800 yards in a season and a handful of touchdowns. I don't know what happened to him. Chris Moore, very unserious football player. Like, I've heard and seen enough of him from camp, joint practice, and preseason game number 1 that, like, I feel like there needs to be, like, public shaming done at this point. I feel like I need to see him publicly released like the Bamas on Hard Knocks used to get back in the day. No interest in any of these trio of wide. And Michael Gallup, I said I would believe him being on a roster when I see him play football again. I don't believe it as we sit here on August 10th. Next on the list, the linebacker room. I'm not going to make this a Dominique Hampton pile-on because Kane Medrano looked equally as ass on Friday. While the energy looked good and the speed looked good, they were both getting swallowed up by New England Patriots offensive linemen in the run game. They were getting bullied, and they were not coming downhill to stop the outside run. The linebacker room as a whole looked bad, and they were giving up shit in coverage. So, Sam Hartman, you joined the list as well. While you were not being helped by your weapons, you're fighting. Come on, guy. You're Mr. Morale of this team. You are like giving game manager energy, and I don't mean the quarterback kind, like team manager. You are Jaden's guy. You're his ace. You're his best friend. You're here for good vibes. You got to play better than that. You were called out by the offensive coordinator, and you didn't necessarily perform. You're staring down receivers. I mean, undrafted players play like undrafted players for the most part in an NFL setting, but you got to show us more. So stock down Sam Hartman, Chris Moore, KJ Osborne, linebacker room, special teams, and pray for Carlin Vigors wherever he is. And also pray for Noah Igbon because Will Campbell looked like he was about to block him all the way into the gates of hell, drove him all the way through the turf at Gillette Stadium. But let me know what your stock up, stock down was from Friday night's preseason game, because that's all I've got for right now. Players that looked as advertised: Trey Amos in a tight spot, had a good pass defense on Mac Hollins when Drake May took an end zone shot. Bill Merritt, Jakori Krosky Merritt looked pretty He looked pretty sharp in the couple of touches that he had, the decisive cuts and the way that he's able to turn nothing into something definitely stood out. I need to see more from Jalen Lane. It wasn't enough to do a stock up or a stock down from him, but that's where I stand on preseason game number 1. We can now wipe our hands clean of it as the guys are back on the practice field. Expect to see more in preseason game 2. I don't need to see Jaden out there in preseason game number 2, but I think we're all going to get our wish, and we're going to see Jaden out there for preseason game number 2. And as I've seen league wide, there's been a lot of starters touching the field in the preseason so far, but not to overly bloviate. Practice at 2 p.m. today. We'll have some type of practice recap later on in the day, and we're getting closer and closer to the start of the regular season. 8 days from now, Washington will be playing preseason game number 2 at home, Northwest Stadium, Monday Night Football versus Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and company. Can't wait for that one. More to talk about on the channel this week. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Like, comment, subscribe, and buy your tickets to the Commanders Kings live event coming up in 2 weeks. We have a Commanders Kings live podcast party, and we're down to our last 30 or so tickets. Please get tickets to it, man. This is our first ever live event. We're doing a live show, 53-man projection, and a season record prediction show. Be a part of the show. And if you can't attend the show, you can also go to the link and you can donate to help the event. Think of it like a super chat for the event as well. Make sure y'all buy your tickets to Commanders Kings Live. It is $45. It is me, Louis T, Ed Oliver, and Street Scores Rico from the ATL. He's coming up for the event. We're now 2 weeks away. This is your 2-week warning to buy your tickets for Commanders Kings Live. I will drop the link for the tickets or the donation in the description and comments below. That's all I got for right now. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Commander Rio